How much do you think, there's the sense I get with a lot of, if this is obnoxious to anyone, it's just because I can't say it very precisely, so I'm just throwing stuff together, but a lot of social activism, where I wonder if they view all of society as being like high school, and it's not.
Mm.
Because I've been, I believe, somewhat weird and perceived as weird my whole life in terms of dealing with the broader world. Um, and there have been a number of times where I was with people, like, for example, in a construction work class, where you would not expect, it was bricklaying, you would not expect them necessarily to be particularly kind, and they were definitely going out of their way to include me in things, even if it meant making fun of something. It was still a form of it was done nicely as a form of inclusion.
Mhm.
When I had longer hair at work, people sometimes made jokes about that. And that's the opposite of what the social activism seems to be afraid of. That all jokes are about, that are sort of at someone's expense or really at their expense. It's inclusion rather than exclusion. It can easily be. I
Yeah.
even wonder if it's for whatever reason, more masculine approach is to include through making fun, whereas perhaps, and again, this
Oh
could be a
yeah,
me.
no. Yeah, no, females don't really do that. Um, I think, you know, I mean, I guess males want to be inclusive with each other and
Mhm.
females want to be inclusive with each other. They just have different ways of doing it, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, and I do wonder whether the current social activism way is more concerned with, it certainly looks like this to me, but it seems like it's a more typically feminine approach. It's
Feminist approach. Yeah, no, I mean,
and fine, like it's got a point, but so this goes back to I'm wondering whether there's a mistake too, and I'm relating this to you back when you're between 12 and 17, whether high school heightens some of this stuff and the broader world does not so much. It's not as harsh, it's not as gendered. um
yeah, that seems to be right. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say whether or not it's, my surroundings or, external things that became less harsh and less gendered, or if I just, it was more of a mental thing. But, in a sense, and this also is, risky and could sound really bad, but in a sense,
oh,
it
that
seems
gives me an
like,
idea. We should be attentive when someone says something that could be risky and bad, then the other person can just offer an opposing view or
yeah,
something to balance it
yeah,
out.
for sure. In a way, it feels like I grew out of being trans
Hmm.
because for me, being trans was sort of a social thing, sort of something that like really relied on like what social group you belonged to, where you were in society. Um, and in a public high school environment, yes, that is definitely heightened. People like people are more judgmental in high school. People will treat you differently because of the way you look in high school. It's more clear than, when you even when you go to college, it's like way less like that. And yeah, it is less like that in the real world because everyone's too concerned with themselves than, other people or how they look to other people.
Well, they're also polite generally.
Right, exactly.
Um, are people less polite in high school?
Um, I mean, it's not as bad as like, the like I didn't have like there weren't like bullies in my high school. I feel like high school bullies, at least in the way that they're like portrayed through media, I'm not sure that they actually exist anymore.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I wonder.
yeah, it's more of a subtle thing. You just kind of find yourself to be a social outcast and like, oh, I guess nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to be friends with me. I feel like people avoid me. Um, it's more of a subtle thing.
That
It's not
must
necessarily,
snowball really quickly.
yeah, yeah,
I can imagine it's a positive reinforcement loop, whichever way you go. If you start to rightly or wrongly think that nobody likes you, it's going to be pretty hard probably to start decent relationships. And if you think, oh, this is going pretty well, everybody likes me, then you're more likely to, I would hope, unless you just act like a jerk, to act more in a way that is more engaging and expressive. So that probably,
Yeah, yeah, there are
that's,
people.
as an outsider, that's a new idea to me.